You're watching Mainebiz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Welcome back. We're continuing our Rapid Fire Sunday show, and here to help us sort through all the issues are Jim Demesis of Policy One Research, Taryn Bragdon from the Maine Heritage Policy Center, Mary Carey, representing Maine Businesses for Social Responsibility, and Yellow Breen from Bangor Savings Bank. Okay, we're back at it. We're going to go to issue number 2. It's another Northern Maine business issue. This one is legislators seek to save rail line. The Montreal, Maine and Atlantic Railway desires to sell or abandon its tracks between Millinocket and Madawaska because they're not profitable right now. Representative Charles Quinterio of Madawaska submitted legislation for the upcoming legislative session that would authorize a $20 million bond allowing the state to purchase and upgrade 240 miles of the railroad track that serves northern Maine. Therio said, "I believe this would put our region in a real bind if we did not have rail service to deliver goods. We need to maintain that service here." However, I'll throw into the mix that Larry Seidlinger, the owner and operator of Yankee Pride Transport in Damascotta, says that the rail industry in the Northeast has never been a moneymaker and yet has been unfairly subsidized by the government. He says, quote, "I don't see the government coming into my business or any other trucking business and saying, here's the millions of dollars to upgrade your equipment and get the equipment that's going to be the most competitive and most efficient." So there seems to be a difference of opinion there between the truckers and the rail folks up in the north. Jump in. Who wants to take that first?
I don't think the state, I think it's simple, that the state shouldn't be in the business of running a railroad if it's not profitable for the private sector to run it. Certainly we shouldn't use limited public dollars, taxpayer dollars, to buy this railroad.
Okay. I thought that's where you were going to go. Who else has an opinion on that?
I do.
Good.
I tend to disagree. I believe right now with the increase in money being spent towards rail traffic and the potentially more green options it provides in terms of transporting goods, I think it's a good option. I think it would be a pity to abandon it now, only in 10 years when gas prices are through the roof, to come back and say, oh, we have to reinvest in this rail line. Well, it will be more expensive.
So you're saying there's an investment that will pay off dividends in the future. Okay, so the difference of a view on that. Others?
I think a lot of folks are torn on this. Even folks that rely on the rail today are really reluctant to see the government come in and take something like that over. On the flip side, we are subsidizing everybody, including truckers, by the I-95 interstate up to Holton is a subsidy that's a public good that we all share in. So I think a lot of people are of split minds on this right now, and I think it'll come into focus. I think the most important thing, as Jim implied earlier, is what are the next industries in Aroostook County? How dependent might they be on this infrastructure in the future, and getting a handle on that, not just the industries of today.
Okay.
And in this case, I don't think taking over the rail line itself is not like taking over the entire rail industry. So with that said, I think it needs to be more than a sort of nostalgic desire to keep rail because of some sort of nostalgic view of it in the past, but so it definitely needs to be based on industry needs and not just today but tomorrow. And I think northern Maine businesses have begun to express those needs. So as long as they can come forward and say, here's the businesses today that rely on rail, here's who's going to rely on in the future, and this is why we see it's important.
The long-term strategic view.
They can do that. The other thing is that it's a bond as well. So ultimately, this is one of those things that's got to fit in with a bond package, and it's ultimately the voters that got to decide if it's a priority.
Right, exactly. Okay, good. I'm going to move on to number 3. This is rapid fire, after all. Taxable interest. The business community's reaction to LD 1495 is far from unanimous. For the viewers and everyone who does remember, LD 1495 from last session was the so-called tax reform bill. Eliminates the Maine's top income tax brackets, decreases the top income tax rate from 8.5 to 6.5 for those under $250,000, eliminates itemized deductions and exemptions, boosts the meals and lodging tax from 7 to 8.5%, expands Maine's 5% sales tax to more goods and services, and increases meals and lodgings from 5 to 6%. I think that's the kind of core elements of it. Was that a great idea, a good idea, or is it mixed? And my follow-up question then that is, the business community seems to be kind of schizophrenic on this issue. We got our larger chambers that are Bangor, Portland, Lewiston, Auburn supporting it, but the Maine State Chamber opposed it. What do you think?
I think this is one of those cases where it's mixed, depending on where you sit. But overall, so if you're a service business and all of a sudden you're going to be subject to additional taxation, of course you're going to defend that turf. But overall, I would like to start by saying that no tax system is perfect, but this is a big step in the right direction. Okay. We've been trying to do tax reform in Maine for years upon years, and finally we've made some dramatic changes. And it does have a symbolic effect in terms of helping businesses.
Okay. Taryn.
It is a mixed bag, particularly for people between the $30,000 and $300,000 a year income level. It can really play with their taxable income, and we've heard from folks that they're going to pay a couple grand more in income taxes. So for us, it's a very small baby step in the right direction, but we need to lower the rate much more and make Maine attractive to entrepreneurs.
Okay. Okay. So you're feeling it from the business side. The rate is better, but still. Okay.
I agree with much of what you said. I also think the fact that there's opposition and proponents of this bill sort of all across the map, I believe that's a good sign that you know, everybody's getting some benefits and everybody's getting some detriments from the bill. So overall, I feel it's a good step in the right direction, and it's good to see some real tax reform in Maine.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think any business that's facing a new or increased tax is going to be against it, and none of us are against any one of those increases in isolation. But at bottom, it's like the Reagan tax cut of the 80s. You know, in order to really slash rates, you've got to eliminate exemptions and broaden the base of what's being taxed. That's what they've done, maybe not enough, but lowering the income tax is really important for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I think on balance, that's why we should probably stay in this direction and keep what they've done and move from here.
Okay.
I think nationally, too, making Maine more attractive for businesses is crucial for our economic development down the road. So from a strategic standpoint, positioning Maine as a place to come to, I think it's a big step.
Sure.
In the
And
right
from my point of view,
direction.
it's trying to attract businesses in the state. I mean, anytime I can take that off of our Forbes list of things against us that we have a highest tax rate, that's always good. Okay. I'm going to move on because it's just a few seconds, but I want to have you folks weigh in on this last one, and we can talk more about it later, too. It's about the stimulus money. Show us the money. Tracking Maine's federal stimulus dollars. What do you think about that? Has that been good? Have you seen any impact of it? And is that kind of thing good for Maine? I'm not looking at the national issues, but how it affects us business here in Maine. Jim, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's still out. The verdict is still out. I think I'd like to see the money getting to businesses and economic development projects quicker than it has. I think a lot of the early money went to cover state and local government programs and infrastructure, which can be helpful, but in terms of business expansion, it still hasn't gotten to
is that really
businesses.
stimulative? It was just paying the
Exactly,
old bills.
and particularly I do some work in the energy business, and I'd still like to see that money. It's been slow getting to those shovel-ready or near shovel-ready projects.
Okay. Okay. Others?
Well, most of the money hasn't gotten here yet. Some has, and one of the examples that was occurring to me is tens of millions of dollars has flowed into K-12 education immediately. That has maybe not helped grow the economy, but it has certainly avoided major cutbacks in employment, maintenance, and other things that you would have seen in local school budgets that would have made things that much worse. I think as far as helping things get better, that's still yet to come and yet to be seen.
But when I had a panel here earlier in the year, and we talked about the stimulus money when it was first coming out. Are we going to get those 10,000 construction jobs that came out of this? Is that going to happen? What do you think, Karen?
No, and what concerns me is the Congressional Budget Office just came out and said that we're looking at a $9 trillion federal deficit over the next 10 years. So we need to put this stimulus money in perspective. What we're essentially doing is bankrupting our children and grandchildren to meet a short-term need today and just putting off tough choices that will have to be made at the state and local level in the next year or two.
Okay. You've got 10 seconds. What do you think?
I think for Maine right now, it's a great thing. I think investing with the emphasis on the green energy and Maine's trying to develop their green energy sector, I think it could be really beneficial for a long-term strategy.
So you're holding out for the benefit and the stimulative effect. Okay, good. All right. That's all the time we have for now, but we are going to come back and do some more afterthought segments that people can watch on the web. So if you'd like to hear more, go to mainebiz.biz and click on the Mainebiz Sunday logo. Check out the extended and candid conversations in our Afterthoughts section that's only available on the web. I'll ask our panel to handicap the upcoming governor's race, and we'll find out what they think about cash for clunkers. Was it a rousing success in Maine, or just more smoke and mirrors? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Mainebiz Sunday is made possible in part by funding provided by the Finance Authority of Maine and the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development.